Welcome back to the People Profit Podcast, where we bridge the gap between generations in today's workplace. Today, I am so excited because my guest isn't just a professional I admire, she's also a friend. I first met Shannon Falvey through networking, and over time, she's become a familiar face at many events that I've been to and attended a bunch of our free leadership workshops. She always shows up curious, open, and ready to grow, which says a lot about who she is as a leader. Shannon is an assistant branch manager at Center One Federal Credit Union. And as a proud member of Gen Z, she brings a fresh perspective, adaptability with technology, and a deep commitment to both mental health and making a positive impact at work. What I've always admired about Shannon is her philosophy: work hard, play harder, and the energy she brings to everything she does. She's always ready with a smile, and I just love bumping into her all the time. And today we're talking about leadership through the Gen Z lens, what her generation brings to the table, and what other generations may not realize about them, and how we can all learn from each other. Shannon, welcome to the show. Super excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Sandy. I am so excited to be here and be a part
Oh,
of
this is so
this.
great. So you have you've got a lot to cover today. So, we talk a little bit in your intro about work hard, play harder. Can you tell us what that looks like for you, not just personally, but also in the way you lead and show up at work?
Absolutely. So, from a professional point of view, is that I'm somebody who believes in doing a good job, and I'm also somebody who believes in seeing everything through. I am not doing a good job if my staff are also not confident and comfortable in order to be able to handle tough situations. So, I have to tell myself every day that in order to get them comfortable, I need to work a little bit harder. Because if you work harder, you can play harder. You have less things that you have to worry about.
Love that. Love that. So you've attended quite a few of my leadership workshops, right? That's like really where we just kind of vibed, and now we just become friends over time. So which has been great, and we live in the same town, which is even cooler. Um,
Which is fantastic.
what makes you want to continuously learn, and how have those experiences and any kind of professional development that you've done helped to shape your leadership style?
One saying I heard a while ago, probably back in high school, is the more you think that you know, the less you actually do know. And that's always just kind of stuck with me. So there's always something to learn, there's always something to be able to dive deeper, especially being in a retail position, is that we are the master of all trades. So it's just kind of being able to see everything, be able to do everything. And I'm somebody who personally prides myself on being able to have that knowledge available to myself and just know it off the top of my head.
That's great. That must give you're a young leader, a Gen Z leader that sometimes you're not always taken seriously. But because you've gone through all of these you do these classes and you're a continuous learner, which is, what I think we all should be in our lives. Do you find that gives you more credibility with the older generation that you might be supervising? What does that do for you?
It definitely does, is that being somebody who is younger, you can see that some people are not exactly receptive right away to having someone who may be, half their age coming in and then, hey, I need you to be doing this or I need you to be taking care of
Mhm.
this. But once people actually know that you have that education and that what you are doing is for just their good, it's for the good of the branch, it's for the good of their development, is that the age is that when you look at people is that you don't actually see the age
Yeah, that's
anymore.
awesome. I remember being a first-time manager. I worked for Marriott, and I was in healthcare, 21, fresh out of college in a management position with Marriott, and my direct reports were both in their 60s. It was crazy, you know? Yeah,
Interesting.
really, really crazy. So, but I wanna talk a little bit about, Gen Z in the workplace. I'm raising one Gen Z, well, not raising, but I have one Gen Z that I have born, I guess you could say, and then ones that's on the cusp of Gen Z and millennials. So I find that Gen Z is often described in the world as tech savvy, right? But also really focused on mental health. And you've also mentioned wanting to create a positive impact. So how do you bring meaning into your day-to-day work, not and not just for efficiency's sake, but to help people maintain that mental health?
Biggest thing is that you have to just kinda have it, you have to care, it's when I come into work every day is I'm not thinking of how many sales I can make, or I'm thinking of how can I help people? How can I go on ahead and make someone's situation better? It's really just being the listener and letting people just be able to talk freely, and really look for those certain things. Like if someone's talking about, oh, they're having a bad day, making appropriate conversations. If you're having a bad day, I'm not going to sit there and say, well, you need a credit card today. It's
Yeah.
it's really just you wanna be a
Yeah.
person, just like in any field, is that especially with us being younger too, is that a lot of people think that we're not smart. It sounds bad when I phrase it like that, but the emotional intelligence that Gen Z has, we are so empathetic, it's really not even a thought. It's just something that we do because it's something that we've wanted everybody to do for
Yeah.
us.
Yeah.
So we're what we really want, as you hear break the cycle, is that we really just want to be able to give that mental health that we've really
Yeah.
wanted, is that we treat people the way that we want to be treated.
I think that that's such great insight because we look at some leaders in some of the other generations, and EQ, emotional intelligence, and empathy isn't really part of their DNA, mainly because of how we were raised in corporate America, right? It was like leave your home at home and work is work and shut everything off, and it actually doesn't work that way. So,
Not at all.
but I find myself too being a little bit harder sometimes, and I actually have to check myself on days that I'm like, oh, I actually have to take a step back and understand what this person is going through. So sometimes Gen Z gets labeled as entitled or glued to their phones. I actually disagree with that, just given my experience with Gen Zs that I've met. But from your perspective, what do you wish other generations understood about why your peers value connection and this immediate response?
Biggest thing is that we were raised on it, is that, technology really started to take off when Gen Zs were getting born. It's that I can remember as young as I was, is that we always had access to, color TVs. We always had access to the internet. We never had to worry about the dial up and have to I couldn't even tell you how that works. I couldn't tell you how a floppy disk works, or any of that. Is that we got the benefit of, like, millennials, technology was just kind of
Right.
starting. They kind of paved the way for us, where they had all the little hiccups. That ours is just getting better and better and
Yeah.
better.
Yeah.
So it's like my nephew, he's Gen X, I think it is. He was born in 2011, is that their generation, once they're back up in the work world, is that they're going to be so much more savvy than we are. It just keeps
Right.
excelling. So since things just keep excelling, it's that we are just coming more accustomed to it, because we have that more time to be able to sit down and utilize it and actually kind of play with it from a kid
Mhm.
perspective. It's kind of like learning a language. It's much easier to learn a second language when you're younger than it is to when you're
I
older.
love that. I love that analogy. Love that analogy so much. 'Cause I remember my first computer, so I'm old or ish. I don't act it, but I am. And I know my producer's laughing behind the scenes right now, guys. He's just cracking himself up right now. But we had our first computer was the Texas Instrument. And it was just this TI computer, and we were able to play Space Invaders. And I'm like, I'm gonna learn how to like develop whatever. Like I never did, right? And the first time we had a microwave, my mother was so excited that she could make scrambled eggs in the microwave. I mean, that's like how far we've come. So for our
Yeah.
generation, it is like learning a new. It's like learning something new, and looking at you, it's like, what do you bring to the table? Like, how can you help my generation and above? Really kind of embrace it because a lot of the older generations aren't embracing this technology.
New things are
Yeah.
scary. Is that, a lot of you hear of a lot of, like, the account takeovers, a lot of the computer takeovers and stuff. It's really just kind of understanding that there are bad people out in the world, and that bad people will do bad
Mhm.
things, but it's really nothing to be afraid of. It's, you need to have patience. It's like raising a kid. You got to have patience. Is that you're like riding a bike too. You're not going to get it the first time you try it. It's going to be
Yeah.
frustrating. You're going to feel discouraged at some points, but once you have it, you're going to realize how beneficial it is and how much it can actually
And
help
how much
you.
fun it is too. I mean, it's fascinating what's going on out there. I want to
It
I
really
want to
is.
kind of go into something a little bit different that maybe our audience is going to be like, "Why is she asking about this?" But I think that this is something that uh, is an interesting thing to think about. You've often said, like you said in the prep work that I asked you to do, you said that tattoos piercings, and personal expression don't affect the quality of the work that you do. There's some judgment out there, right? From the older
Oh
generations,
yeah.
right? How do you think that embracing individuality can actually strengthen a workplace?
So it's definitely when you're looking for more generations to come in, it's you want to see the that you're welcomed
Yeah,
here. Is I'm someone who is, fully loaded with tattoos, and my generation is that they're not exactly comfortable coming into somewhere where they don't feel as if they're accepted or feel as if they're wanted
yeah,
there. It's yeah, me working in a bank, we want everyone's money to be here, but if you're actually not caring about the types of people who are walking through the door, it's kind of a
yeah.
waste. I've personally faced some judgment when it comes to my tattoos. I've had people make not comments really regarding my efficiency. It's more of it comes more of like that personal bias where they're like, well, I don't like these. You shouldn't have these. But at the end of the day, I'm still able to perform your transaction. I'm still able to help you solve your problem. So why does it actually matter if I have flowers on my
Right.
skin?
Yeah.
It's or why does it matter if I have hot pink hair? It's you had a problem, we solved it, it was taken care of. It's the self-expression. It has nothing, absolutely nothing to do. It's kind of I see it as you coming to work, and if my house is the color pink and your house is the color blue, well, I don't like the color blue, so you shouldn't work here. It doesn't really make any sense. Tattoos were illegal actually in Massachusetts back in the 1980s. It's kind of a newer thing, is that as long as there's nothing inappropriate, racist, or it shouldn't really
Mhm.
matter. Is that, everyone's different. We want different types of people coming through the door. We want different types of people working. But also, that's what makes humans great is that we're all different and that we all just have different interests.
So, do you find that people don't want to do business with you? I mean, I think your tattoos are amazing. I don't have one, but
Thanks.
that's my generation, right? Um, so do you find that people are biased towards you?
I've actually definitely dealt with a situation where one gentleman, every time I've dealt with him, it was during the winter. So cold, that's cold. Months are cold. And in the summer, as you know, as my company, we are a little bit more relaxed when it comes to our dress code. So I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt, and immediately, oh, I didn't know you had those, and made some definitely not great comments towards me. Now, when he comes in, he actually does not wish to deal with me. That he doesn't want to actually do service with
Oh,
me because I have tattoos.
wow, wow. That's a whole different level of uh crazy. I think you could say.
You'll always meet more
Yeah,
out there.
yeah. That's gonna be hard, but, I look at the generations that are coming up, and they all have 'em. My daughter has, and she probably has 3 or 4, they're not sleeved, but she probably has 3 or 4 tattoos. My younger son is 25, he's talking about getting one, and I'm like, "Whatever," just but it's an interesting thing. So you point out too, we don't wanna trash all the older generation, so it's certainly not what we're here to do, right? So older generations do bring wisdom and experience to the workplace, while the younger ones bring fresh eyes, right? Can you share a story when you personally learned something valuable from a colleague of another generation?
Hmm. Is that it's a lot of just day by day things, is that, as I love being able to work under so many people who have worked in my field for
Yeah.
years. I love working with just different age groups. And one there's been so many that are just very remarkable where it's just kind of like, I never knew
Yeah.
that. It's just kind of more of what I'm learning throughout the older generations is that the technology side is that I'm okay with. It's more of actual like listening to their experiences, where it's kind of like they're giving me insight on certain situations that I never could even think
Okay.
of.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm trying to think of one exact really good to give you. One situation I would probably say that was very, very beneficial was I was actually talking to my previous manager. So she is I don't think she'd be happy if I said her age, but she's a little bit older than me. And a lot of the things is that when I'm like writing a review and everything is I'm a very direct
Mm.
person, is that with Gen Z twos, we're sensitive, but we also like just
Yeah.
directness especially when it comes to our careers, is don't sugarcoat it. But she was also with emotional intelligence, is just showing me is that yes, this is decent, but the way that you are coming across it would be um would be just a little could be a little hard. Or for even better example is that we decorate all of our branches for Halloween.
Yeah.
So I'm a huge, huge, huge Halloween person, and I worked in a different branch. It was actually when I first started. So we decorated the branch, and the branch manager, who's also a good friend of Sandy's, Heather Forshilly, absolutely amazing. I have to give her a shout out. But, is that we had an assistant branch manager at the time in the Northborough branch who was not a fan of Halloween.
Mm,
So even though, she knew that Gen Z and millennial, we were so eager, so excited to do it, she decided that, "Hey, I'm even though this is not my thing, I'm willing to go on ahead and just adapt to it. I'm willing to do it just to
yeah.
kind of make everybody happy." And she actually ended up
Mm,
loving it. She had fun with
yeah.
it. So it's just, it's a lot of the time is that what I think is that different generations will want to see the younger ones just kind of do what they need to
Yeah.
do and kind of just because back in the day, as your generations from having conversations with older people, is that they would absolutely do anything to climb that corporate
Right.
ladder. Like they would put in the 85-hour work weeks, the 90-hour work weeks, and there'd never be a complaint. That is something I admire so much about, the older generations is that I have that old time. I love overtime. I love working. But with Gen Z is that we also prioritize our work-life
Yeah.
balance is, the 40-hour work week is what we want. It's granted we would love to work less, but everybody would love to work
Yeah.
less. But we prioritize that actual work-life balance where it's our mental health, where it's what I've seen is that more Gen Z are willing to call out because they need like a mental health day compared to somebody who's like a baby
Yep.
boomer who they'll just go in and they'll power
Right,
through it.
right, and I think that's something that I've learned a lot of the downtime, right? So I'm a workaholic, as my children would say, and my grandchildren will say that as well. But I've also really embraced since COVID. I've really embraced the downtime. I just get back from a 10-day vacation, and I read a book and didn't really check my email. My team didn't hear from me very much, and it was just really just that unplugging time that I think we've this older generations, the ones that kind of appreciate what others bring to the table. I think this is an important thing. All right, you want a tough question? Here we go.
Let's get a
All
tough
right, let's
one.
go. If you could build your dream team made up of people from different generations, what strengths would you want each group to contribute?
Ooh, that's a
It is
really
a
good
good one, isn't
question.
it?
A really good question. So I would say, I think it would be a mix of every single generation. Everybody has something decent to
Yeah,
offer. Everyone has different experiences. I'll start with the silent generation, the born 1928 to 1945. So they've been around forever. Is that they have the wisdom. They know how people
yeah,
operate. Is they have probably some of the most decent people skills and just just with the people aspect. I would say for the silent generation for the baby boomers is very similar with when it comes to the actual people skills, but also is just kind of for their experiences too. Is that with it being kind of 1964, I classify that more as kind of the end of more of the paper and pencil where technology was starting to kind of come
yeah.
arise, not as advanced or what we know of. So they were still a little bit more old school, but they really were the ones that kind of paved the path when it came to like automatic calculators, for
Right.
example, just the automatic things. So they would be very beneficial when it comes to that point of view. For Generation X, is that very similar? Is that technology just kind of came out? Is that they would be the ones more analytical because they were the ones that were really developing
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Is that technology was really getting developed back in the 1980s. So they were really kind of focused on making it happen and kind of paving the path for everybody else. And then with the millennials is that they're the ones who I think really have started the kind of whole mental health impact when it comes to Gen
Hmm.
Z is that a lot of the times I'll see on like Facebook, on Instagram, just kind of random memes just talking about wanting to break the cycle and wanting to be different from the previous generations. And usually it's coming from a millennial standpoint from just my
Yeah,
observations.
yeah.
Um, and then Gen Z, definitely us for the out of the box thinking. So many times in my career where I've thought of ideas and I couldn't believe I actually thought of them. I'm like, this is crazy, but maybe it could work. And it's just, we have been so because of all of the other generations, we have been so blessed and we have been just so encouraged to want to share ideas and share our
I love
thinking.
that. That's awesome. Thank you for breaking down all those generations for our audience. That's fantastic.
Of course.
I think it's yeah, it's huge, right? So I think all the different generations just bring just a wealth of knowledge and experience, and you know, and how everything has kind of flown and grown throughout the workplace. I'm excited about where the workplace is going for sure. So when you're in a leadership role right now as an assistant branch manager, how do you think your generational lens shapes the way that you personally lead your team?
It definitely has me think more of a just thinking of Gen Z in general and taking myself kind of out of the equation is that just overall is I definitely try to be a little bit more sensitive. In elementary school, you hear treat people how you want to be
Yeah,
treated. It's even though I'm not a very sensitive individual, it's just that your different approaches is I'm one of the parts of Gen Z that hates being on my phone. I'm one of the ones that really isn't too much on social media, but it's also just kind of like seeing our experiences. Like we do financial literacy, and being part of Gen Z with going to a high school for financial literacy. Well, I know what Fortnite is. I know what Roblox is. It makes it easier to be able to present certain things to different audiences too.
gotcha.
So it's just because of who we are and what we like in our free time, it's easier to connect with different
Yeah.
people. But also we're on that age too where it's like, but we also like learning about, the music from the 80s. We like hearing about, how banking was back in the
Mm.
1970s. We're very interested in just every different type of
Yeah.
generation. Like antique shops, for example, we love antiques. We love everything generational. There's no real kind of just like there's no real divide, I think, when it comes to Gen
That's
Z.
really great. So your leadership is embracing kind of what everyone has experienced and just, really relating to everybody at whatever level that they're at. Is that what I'm hearing? Yeah, that's
Exactly.
great. Do you
Exactly.
think that leadership looks different like leadership today looks different for Gen Z than it did for millennials or Gen X? Yeah.
Yes.
How?
I think it looks extremely different. I think that it's a little bit more sensitive nowadays, but not in a bad way, where is that mental health is just so much more attentive now. And it's like I said earlier, is the millennials really kind of paved that for us. So when they were going into the workplace and it was really the baby boomers and, Gen X that were kind of in charge because of your guys' experience and because how things were led beforehand, is that you guys didn't really have as much sensitivity or empathy when it came to certain situations. And when it nowadays is that, you can call in and that if you're having a bad day or having something, it's taken a lot more seriously because of how much more research has come into mental health and how much it can actually affect somebody in the workplace. Is that we didn't have that research, we didn't have those numbers or anything back
Right.
then. So it's just the more studies in different areas has really helped the workplace overall for
So
everybody.
what about, your I mean, I know a lot of people in your organization and they're all different ages. So what about those people in organizations like yours who maybe have the Gen X and the boomers that are at the top of the food chain, right? And that are like, this all is BS. How do you deal with that?
Gen Z, we're expected to adapt. Is that everybody should be expected to adapt when it comes to the business and the business needs. It's something that we all need to be just open minded
Mhm.
to. That one would not be a generational thing. It's if you are struggling with a certain issue, go to someone who you know is able to help you with it, who can explain it to you. And at that point, if you're the one that's looking at the age group and the age, that's your problem. It's you should be able to go to an expert in that field no matter who they are, no matter what they look like, or no matter their
Mhm.
age. It's at the end of the day, if you have a problem, you want to go to the person who can solve
But
it.
what about with this mental health? Like, so I talk to a lot of leaders. Obviously you guys are all in office, so there's not a lot of remote workplace. But I look at talking to some of our CEOs and leaders, they're like, the mental health days are, what are those? And then, everyone should be in the office, 24/7, 40 hours a week or whatever that is. How, as a younger leader and breaking the cycle, like we talked about, right? How do you affect that change in mindset in these kind of leaders?
It's definitely hard. It's definitely not an easy task. It's something that would take time, but it also takes understanding from everybody. Is that, if you are having a situation, you can't tell someone how they can feel or how they can process it
Hmm.
if it may not be a big deal to you, but it could be the end of world for
Yeah,
someone else. It's all about really the emotional intelligence is understanding how someone can process their emotions because not everybody is the
yeah.
same. If everybody was the same, it would be easier, but life would be
It would be
boring.
so boring, wouldn't it? Really would be.
It would
It'd
be
be awful.
terrible.
What's one thing that you think leaders from older generations could learn from the Gen Z leaders about leading today's workplace? It has changed so much since I was a manager back in the day.
It r it really
Yeah.
has. Is I think just being able to kind of relate and just kind of seeing people where they're at is a lot of the times, even just when it comes to generic conversations, it's, if everyone's talking about a certain topic or a certain something and you're kind of out of the loop, it's maybe try to fill yourself in a little bit so you don't feel like you're
Yeah.
disconnected.
Okay. And what do you feel about like what would you say about to those other generations who aren't so excited about the technology and a little bit nervous about it? What steps would you have them take to learn a little bit and to kind of catch up?
Biggest thing is acknowledge the feelings is, new things are scary, so it's a completely normal reaction to not be excited and to be nervous when it comes to these new things. But also that change is
Yeah.
consistent, that everything will always change. To be able to ask for help and not be embarrassed for asking for help, it's at the end of the day is that you want to learn
Yeah.
this. It's don't be afraid to go on ahead and say, "I'm not," don't be a hero. Is I don't know how to do this. I need the help. Get the
Yeah.
help.
Yeah.
It's just being able to put your pride aside for a second. I early on in my career, is that I always wanted just to do everything, 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 and never wanted to ask for help because I didn't want anyone to think I was incapable or I was unable to do so. I was hurting myself more doing that than I was asking for direction or asking for
I
help.
love that.
It's even though we know I want everyone to think I'm a decent employee, but I don't have all the answers. And especially with brand new things, you're not going to have all the answers right away. It's going to be confusing. It could be scary.
Yeah.
Is just put it by the side, ask for the help, figure out where it is that you are lacking and where it is that you actually need the help in is that some things can be more broad. So, like for example, is that we open business accounts here at
Yeah.
Central One. Is that if somebody says that they want training on business accounts, well, do you need training on the procedure on how to open it? Do you need training on what the actual business accounts are, like the documents? Is that you need to really be able to pinpoint what it is that you are struggling with. You just can't say the whole thing
Right.
overall. It's okay, but what about it is confusing? What is it that's
Yeah.
frustrating
Yeah.
you?
So we talk a lot about reverse mentoring. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term. Have you heard of that term?
I
So
have not.
reverse mentoring, I think it's super interesting. Like, do you think that Gen Zs would be interested in this concept where we have mentoring programs where older generations are mentoring the younger generations and some of those soft skills and people skills, like you were talking about, but then offering a mentoring program for the Gen Zs to mentor the older generations on the new technology. So kind of makes it a little bit less afraid, like they're less embarrassed because they're assigned someone that can kind of help them with that. What do you think of that
Yeah.
idea?
I think that would be a wonderful idea. As each generation has their own struggles, is that Gen Z could definitely learn from the older generations when it comes to, really how to really master those people skills. Is that, again, they've been out in the work field for so, so, so long, they've already mastered
Mhm.
them, but also their experiences, their wisdom, that, situations that they've come across on top of just, sales skills, on top of just
Right.
anything, is that the older generations is that they are just a sponge of
Yeah.
knowledge. But then also when it comes to us, it's our fresh ideas on being able to, maybe how to drive a new
Yeah.
business. Is that the old ideas are great on keeping business and this is how we should sustain things and that this is wonderful. But about moving forward, the world's changing, people are being born, people are dying, people are, moving. There's just constant change in and outside of the
Yeah.
workplace. It's being aware of those changes
Yeah.
too. But I think that it would just be wonderful for both all generations to kind of just shadow each other and learn and kind of understand, well, this is where our struggles are and, when your generation does something like this to my generation, this is how we
Right.
react and vice
Yeah.
versa. Because is that we also do things in the workplace that the older generations don't like or don't understand, and vice versa, as where, oh, well, this is outdated. or okay, well, you're just being entitled. It's just kind of actually understanding why we think what we
Right.
think regarding a
Yeah.
process.
That's been just such a great conversation. If you could leave one message for older generations about Gen Z in the workplace, what would it be?
I would say is the one message that I would give to the older generations regarding Gen Z is that we are trying. We really are trying. We want to do a good job. And sometimes we get a little ahead of ourselves. But other times is that our intentions are good, is that we do look up to you for your experience and for your wisdom. And we want to be as good as you, but in the most best way possible, we do want to be
Yeah.
better because you've laid the groundwork for us. The older generations have walked. It's time for Gen Z to start running.
Oh, you've got so many nuggets. I'm so that's so excited. That's awesome. Looking ahead for you, what's next for you personally and professionally, and what goals or dreams are you working towards?
So for me, my next steps would definitely be is I'm 27. Is I would definitely be looking towards a branch manager position, maybe within the next 5 years. Is I also do believe in is that even though I hit my spot, if there's a next spot open, if I'm not ready for it, don't go for it. So is that within the next 5 years, I do hope to get promoted. I do hope that I get married and start a family within the next 5 years. And hopefully buy a house. We all know how the market is. We'd be on here for another 25, 30 minutes if we start talking about, buying a
Right, yeah.
house.
My daughter's 27, I hear you loud and clear. Yeah,
But definitely is that I definitely want to just kind of move up as much as I can within the company. And I had some amazing leaders, just like Heather Forchilli, is that I want to be able to get those skills that all of my amazing managers have given me and give it to my generation, the younger generations, and even the older
yeah.
generations. Is that I have knowledge that I'd like to share with people, and I know that they have knowledge that they'd like to share with me. It's just I'm excited to be able to give what it is that I am
Well,
learning.
I'm so excited that you are here today, and I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your very busy day to be here and sharing your story and just being so open about everything. Your perspective really
Thank you.
highlights the strengths and values that Gen Z work brings to the workplace. And so, before we wrap up, if anyone wants to connect with you or continue this conversation with you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Absolutely. So you can come see me in person. I'm at Central One Federal Credit Union, 40 South Street, Westboro, Massachusetts, 01581. You can call me. My phone number is 508-841-0637, or you can send me an email to sfalvey, which I'll hold up a business card. You can send me an email to sfalvey at
Nice. And we'll
centralfcu.com.
put that we'll put that up on the screen as well. Awesome. Great. And to our listeners, if you found this episode valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends or colleagues. The more we share these conversations across generations, the stronger our workplaces and our communities become. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on the People Profit Podcast. Thanks again, Shannon.
And don't forget to buy Sandy's book.
Take care, everyone.